Okay, this is vlog, my vlog for February 14th, 2015. I've already reported on previous vlogs. I'm being terrorized and gang stalked and harassed and poisoned by a sting operation. I've already reported that I am surrounded by sting operatives. They have the surrounding apartments surrounding mine. The sting ops starting yesterday and today are being more aggressive than normal. Yesterday they were staging argumental fights outside of the apartment. They keep doing this for the purpose of trying to lure me outside to either see what the fuck's going on or to record what's going on. And the reason why is because they want to get video evidence of me outside of my apartment using my cell phone to record something. And the reason why is because they were trying to frame me as a pedophile, and they were using an officer as a body double. So they have doubles that were impersonating me, so they can easily make me look like a bad guy. And they want to have video evidence of me actually recording something. And the reason why is because they want to frame me as a fucking pedophile. These sting operatives have and are using children in this sting operation. The apartment directly below mine is being rented by the Portland Police Department, and they had physical possession, physical control of this apartment directly below mine, and they were using children in their sting operation. They were last year they were every time I left my apartment to either go to the store, or to go to the bank, or to go grocery shopping, to do necessity stuff. And believe me, it's not easy when I say for me to leave this apartment because of the fact I'm severely disabled from being poisoned. It's not easy for me to leave, and it takes me time to get ready to go out the door. I have to get dressed. I have to get my my shoes on and my socks on, and I have to grab my gear. I have to lock up my coffee pot and my coffee, and I have to because they were poisoning me, and I have to, I'm partially paralyzed from being poisoned. I can't move very quickly, and it's painful to move, and I have to use a cane to assist me when I walk places. I don't have to use the cane in the apartment because I don't walk very far in this fucking apartment. I just lean up against the walls. I'll lean up on my fridge, and I'll lean up on the wall when I go to the bathroom, and vice versa when I'm coming back to the living room. And but I usually need to use my cane to get out of bed because I have trouble getting out of bed. I basically have to just fall down into bed because. But anyway, it takes me, from the time I start getting ready to go out the door until I actually am going out the door, it takes me about 10-15 minutes just to get ready to go out the damn door. Well, these fucking sting operatives that I'm surrounded by have me under illegal video surveillance inside my apartment. They see that I'm getting ready to leave. So the sting operatives that were in the apartment directly below mine, the cops had some female adults in there that are not in law enforcement, and these female adults had children. And these Portland police officers were directing these female civilian operatives for the police department to literally place children in front of me for their video surveillance purposes. And they were doing this repeatedly last year. They did it several times in a row. And I don't leave the apartment except like once a month, maybe twice a month, on rare occasion. Because I'm disabled and it's very painful for me to go anywhere. I bleed internally because of my injuries, and because of it I try to stay as non-motion, to not move around as much as possible. I just try to either sleep or sit because of the severe pain I'm in, and I'm severely debilitated from being poisoned. And every time I leave my apartment and I set foot out my door and I start going, go over there to the stairs, and I start going down the stairs to leave this apartment building. These sting operatives that are in this apartment building that are directly below mine, the woman that was in that apartment, she had a small child with her, and she deliberately and intentionally would go outside with that child as I'm getting ready. Not beforehand, but when I start getting ready to leave my apartment. That's when this lady down below would take this small child, and they would go outside, and she would have the child with her about 10 feet away from the bottom of the stairs, out here on the walkway somewhere. Not in front of my apartment, but down on the first floor. And then as I go out the door, and I go over to the stairs, and the moment I take my first fucking step down the stairs, that's when the lady will turn, and she takes the child by the child's hand, and she walks the child towards the bottom of the stairs. And now keep in mind, I'm disabled, I'm partially paralyzed, I cannot get down these stairs quickly. I'm using a cane when I go down these damn stairs. I can't, by any measure of the word, go down these stairs quickly. I could easily fall, and I'm partially paralyzed. I have to gingerly take steps down the stairs. It's easier for me to get up the stairs than it is for me to go down the stairs. So I have to very gingerly go down the stairs because of this. And I can't walk very fast going down those stairs. Well, the sting operative was deliberately trying to time it so that her and her kid would be at the bottom of the stairs as I'm reaching the bottom of the stairs. But because I'm so badly disabled, I can't go down the stairs very quickly. So this sting operative, this adult female sting operative, deliberately slowed her pace down because she's trying to time it so that we'll literally meet at the bottom of the stairs. And she was doing this because she's doing this for video surveillance purposes. Because they want to have video surveillance me near their brats, because they wanted to frame me as a pedophile. And this was a repeated process that they used over and over and over again. Well, I got sick of it. And it got to a point where, I mean, they were not even trying to hide the fact that they're doing this. And they didn't care if I knew. It's like literally stepping out of your house, and it's like stepping out of your house and you just step right into a movie studio where you're surrounded by a bunch of performances that are doing the same skit over and over and over and over again. And it's like take 1, take 2, take 3, take 4, take 5. That's what it was like. And it was just so fucking predictable that it was ridiculous. I mean, then I made the decision the next time I go outside my apartment, as I'm getting ready to leave, I'm going to just turn my cell phone on right before I go out the door and just start recording and just hold my cell phone down at my side. And I caught these son of a bitches doing this on video and audio. This bitch got herself and her small child in position, and they're like in a waiting position about 8 to 10 feet away from the bottom of the stairs. And they're just standing there waiting. They literally look like they're waiting. And in the moment I take my first step down the stairs, that's when this woman turns around and escorts her child to the apartment directly below mine. And I'm going slower than hell. And I knew damn well I'm catching these people doing this shit on video. And I have to go slow. And I had no intention of wanting to be anywhere near these fucking people. And I even slowed down more than what I normally would, just because I don't want to be anywhere near these damn people. And this bitch herself deliberately slowed down. So she was trying to time it so that we would all literally be at the bottom of the stairs, at the same time practically. Now, she couldn't time it the way she wanted to because I intentionally went down the stairs much, much slower than I normally do. because of that. I didn't want to be anywhere near these people. But I had to leave the apartment, and by the time I reached the bottom of the stairs, this lady and her kid was in front of her doorway, and she was taking her sweet ever time to get herself and her kid inside her apartment. They were basically just standing at the doorway waiting, is what they were doing. She just slowly walked her child in front of the stairways because she was trying to time it, because she wanted us all to be at the bottom of the stairs at the same time for their video surveillance purposes, and she couldn't manage that. So when she got, because I was going so slow down the stairs, so when she got herself and her child in the front of this apartment down below here, in front of her doorway, she just basically stood there and waited for me to get to the bottom of the stairs and walk away and head away from this place, heading into the parking lot. And the moment I turned away from these people, started walking this way, the child that the sting operative was using was complaining to the sting operative, asking, why does she bring her outside just to bring her back inside again? So the child was complaining that the sting operative is doing exactly what I'm accusing her of, basically. And the sting operative opened her damn mouth and said, because he's a pedophile. Now, she just made a pedophile accusation and I caught this on video and audio. And I caught this bitch on video and audio, literally waiting like 8 to 10 feet away from the bottom of the stairs. And the moment I take my first step down the stairs, that's when the bitch starts walking the child towards the bottom of the stairs. So she's deliberately placing herself and this child in front of me as I go down the stairs. She's intentionally doing this. And she was going as slow as possible. And she's not disabled. Now, based on that very quick argument and that accusation that the child was making towards the sting operative and the accusation that the sting operative made, that was all about what I'm already describing, because that child was complaining that this woman just took the child outside for the sole purpose of standing there for about 1 minute, and then the lady just slowly walks the child back to the front of the apartment to take the child back into the apartment. And the child herself deemed this behavior as odd and was complaining about it. Now, I just literally caught on video a police sting operative using children in their sting op to frame me for their video surveillance purposes. They're fucking admitting. I can technically testify the Portland Police Department and their civilian whore sting operatives are using and abusing children in a fucking sting operation. And I caught the bastards on video doing this shit. Well, gee, after the fact, I have Portland police officers in plain clothes that are in that apartment directly below mine. They're in this apartment directly below mine. They're wearing plain clothes. They have their privately owned vehicle parked in this parking lot, but they're wearing a Portland police jacket over their plain clothes. And they were in this apartment directly below mine, and they were fucking pounding on the wall right there. Right where, literally where I'm pointing is where I could hear a whole lot of bam, 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 bam noises. It wasn't a hammer. It wasn't, they weren't repairing anything. They weren't using a hammer to put a nail for a photo or anything. What they were doing was they're taking their damn fist. They were just going boom, 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 like that, boom, 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 like that. And they did it from their perspective. It would be like them hitting that area of their wall down below. And for me, the sound sounds like it's coming from right here. So, and I heard the people that were in the apartment, because the walls aren't really thick here and not very well insulated. This is an old apartment building, not a modern apartment building. I heard the people. I started recording when they did that, and I was aiming my camera right there where the pounding noise was coming from to see if, to document the fact that they were making this pounding noise. And right after this, I started recording. I could hear the people that were down below in the apartment down below going out the front door. So I got up from my chair and went over to the window there and looked out the window and let this cell phone recorder record out the window, and saw these a Portland police officer along with some bitch that both of these people were in this apartment directly below mine. They were the ones making a noise, and they exited the apartment right after they did this. And I'm catching them on video, and I can see the man was a Portland police officer. He's in plain clothing, not in a uniform. He's in plain clothing, but wearing a Portland fucking police jacket over his plain clothing. And that's more than enough to prove that the Portland Police Department have physical control over the apartment surrounding mine, and particularly the one directly below mine. That's basically video evidence and video proof that there is Portland police sting ops in that fucking apartment. Well, I proved that after I caught this female sting operative that was in this apartment down below using a child to set my ass up as a pedo. Now, I don't know how to describe it. To be surrounded by a sting op that's using children and they're trying to frame me as a pedo, it's like every time I set foot outside, it feels like these sting ops just literally want to pick up a child and just throw the child at me for the sake of their video surveillance purposes. That's what it feels like. That's literally what it feels like. And they literally converge on me at the bottom of the stairs. Because they know whether I take these stairs over here or whether I take these stairs over here, both the stairs to leave this apartment building converge on the same spot. And the spot where these stairs converge is literally in front of this apartment that's directly below mine. So I have literally no way to avoid these people. They know exactly they know when I'm going to leave. They know exactly where I'm going to be, and that's where their sting ops and their sting ops with children literally wait in ambush. And then as I go down the stairs, the sting ops will literally place their children in front of me as I go down the stairs, and then they start making false accusations right after that. Right after that, all I'm doing is going down the fucking stairs. I'm holding my cell phone in one hand. I'm holding my cane over there in the other hand. And I'm partially paralyzed, and I'm trying to navigate down the fucking stairs. And the moment I get to the bottom of the stairs, they're making pedo accusations. So this is how sting operatives perform, like street theater performers. They're like mimes that are putting on a street performance. Where these sting operatives are literally placing children in my path as I try to leave here, or as I try to enter my apartment, vice versa. It doesn't matter. It's like the sting ops literally converge on that area down below at the bottom of the stairs, because they know I'm going to be there, because I have to be there to either leave the apartment or to enter the apartment building. So that's like a bottleneck area where the sting ops generally tend to wait in ambush. And I proved on video they're doing this. On video and audio. Now, not only did I deem this lady's actions suspicious, but the child that was in the care of this person was complaining that this person just took the child outside and then just stood there for a minute, and then the lady's taking the child back inside again. So the child, him or herself, I didn't know. I wasn't even paying attention to the child, so I don't even know if that child was a female or a male. I don't even know. I wasn't even looking at the child. I was more interested in catching the sting operative in the act of doing this. But the child was complaining about what the sting operative did. Well, I'm recording what the sting operative did because I know damn well she's a sting op, and I know damn well that she's deliberately and intentionally placing children near me for the sake of their video surveillance purposes. And I proved they're fucking doing it. I proved it on video and audio. Law enforcement is the biggest bunch of pieces of fucking garbage in the fucking universe. They'll do anything to make their targets look like a bad guy. Literally, they'll surround you with... The police departments are known in drug bust sting operations to take over entire apartment buildings. They're already known to do that in drug bust sting operations. So guess what? That means police departments have the power to actually take over an entire apartment building. They have the power to take over an entire apartment building for their operations. Well, gee, they do apartment sting operations all the time, and not just for drug bustings. They use apartment sting operations to frame people. They use apartment sting operations to murder off people. And guess what they can do? Guess what they can do if they have you surrounded? Guess what they can do? Guess what? They have full control of the whole area. They have full control of the whole building, and they have full control of anything that happens on the property. And these operatives can stage or commit any crime they want to, and in an organized manner give their target the blame. Well, I proved on video I'm surrounded by a sting operation. I proved on video these sting operatives are using children. I proved on video at another apartment building I lived at before I moved here that these sting operatives are using doubles to frame me as a pedophile. Now, these sting operatives are intentionally walking back and forth on my catwalk out here. I'm on the second floor here. There is no reason for there to be any walking traffic in front of my apartment based on the location of my apartment and based on the location of the stairs to either enter or leave these apartments that are on the second floor. If you're in this apartment next door, which is the only apartment to my left, they would use the stairs that are right over here. And in other words, they have no reason to walk in front of my apartment. All the other three apartments that are on this side of me, every one of those apartments is much closer to the stairs that are over there than they are to the stairs that are over here. So these three apartments that are over here generally would use the stairs that are over there because it's closer for them. In other words, there is no reason for anybody from this side to walk this way, and there's no reason for anybody on this side to walk this way on the catwalk. None. Zero. Nada. For somebody that's on this side of my apartment, for them to either leave the building or enter the building, it's a much shorter walk for them if they take the stairs over there. Now, if people that are in apartments over here, the three apartments that are over here, if they want to leave this apartment by walking the entire catwalk just to get to these stairs over here, they're taking the major long way, which makes absolutely no sense. They're almost tripling, well, not tripling, but I would say doubling the distance they have to walk. I mean, it's easier for them to take the stairs that are going this way. Because both stairs, keep in mind, both stairs, the stairs that are over here and the stairs that are over here, both converge on the same spot down below on the first floor. So it makes absolutely no sense for people that are over on this side of the apartment building to walk all the way on this catwalk and then to go to the stairs over here and then go that way. That makes no fucking sense whatsoever. They're over there, they're over here, and there's stairs that are over here that go down like that. So if they wanted to leave the building, they would just go down the stairs that's over on their side. Based on the location of my apartment, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever for anybody to be walking back and forth on this catwalk out here. I'm like in the middle, where I'm sort of like, for me, I can optionally take this stair or this stair. Now, this stair would be a little bit closer for me than this stairs, but I'm practically in the middle of these two stairs. Almost. I'm slightly closer to these stairs than that stairs. So for me, it can be iffy as far as the distance I have to walk. It's just a little bit further if I went this way. It's just a little bit further. But I always take the stairs because it's the closest stairs to my apartment. The apartment that's right next door to me over here to my right, their closest stairs to their apartment is the stairs over there. You see what I'm getting at? In other words, there's no reason for anybody to walk in front of the catwalk back and forth right here in front of my apartment. There is no reason for it at all. They're doing this deliberately and intentionally as a form of harassment and terrorism and intimidation. Because see, they know damn well that I know they're doing this for this purpose. I've already proved on video, previous videos, that I'm surrounded by sting operatives. I became targeted by a sting when my wife got a job at the Multnomah County Jail Kitchen as a prep cook. My wife started having sexual relations with somebody in law enforcement at that time. And law enforcement decided, since they recruited my wife into their clique or clan, my wife referred to her friends in law enforcement back in the day as her clique of friends. So people in law enforcement, people that are associated with law enforcement, think of themselves as a separate group compared to everybody else. I think of them more as a clan, since their behaviors and their actions and their mentalities are much more akin to a goddamn clan than a clique. But anyway, they decided they were going to set me up as a pedo. And they had my wife and everybody on her side of the family on board with it. And my wife and her side of the family and our oldest daughter at the time was literally helping them to frame me as a pedophile. And the county sheriffs and the Portland Police Department here used their police powers to take, or not at this apartment building, but back at the time, they used their police powers to take over the surrounding apartments surrounding mine, and they arranged to bring in a double. So they had it all planned out. At no time was it an investigation. The entire time it was a sting-off where law enforcement was funding and directing and controlling everything and dictating everything. And it was my wife and everybody on her side of the family that was following these sting operatives' orders and were being coached and directed by law enforcement to do this or to do that for their video surveillance, or they were telling my wife and her family to put multiple pools, swimming pools, and large trampolines in my yard, swing sets and whatnot. You name it. They were trying to make my yard look like a playground. That's what they were trying to do. And they did this in a matter of 2 months. 2 to 2.5 months, they had literally converted my yard into a playground. Once they had my yard looking like a fucking playground, that's when they brought in the double. So this is how law enforcement and their civilian operatives frame people for crimes. They literally stage and commit all the crimes themselves, and they do everything humanly within their power to make their target look like a bad guy. So the county sheriffs funded my wife and her side of the family to purchase all the shit that they put in our yard. They bought multiple large pools, each consisting of around $350 each. They bought a very large trampoline that cost well over $300. This was back in 1999 when minimum wage was much less here in Portland, Oregon. So keep that in mind. That $350 a pop, that's a hell of a lot of money. And we didn't have money to burn. I knew damn well that my wife and her family was lying to me as where they got the money for all that shit. I kept asking them, where'd you get the money for this? Where'd you get the money for this? And they just look at me and grin, and they look at each other and grin more. And then they just say, oh, we're going halfsies on it. And I'm like, well, I knew that was a bald-faced lie because we didn't even have half the money to buy any of that shit, let alone all of the money. We didn't even have half the money. We had by the time we paid rent and paid utilities and bought food and paid for necessities, we were broke. We were just squeaking by at the time. So I know damn well we had no money whatsoever for any of that shit. I knew they were lying to me about this. They were doing this. They were turning my yard into a playground because they arranged to get a double onto my property, and it was the county sheriffs and the Portland police that did this. It's a common practice for authorities here in Oregon to use doubles of photogenic photos. They use sting tactics. They surround their target with their operatives that will lie for law enforcement and will lie about their target. And then they stage and commit crimes using doubles, and they'll document the crimes using photogenic photos. They'll take side shots and back shots of the double impersonating their target. And then this is how they make their targets look like bad guys. And then they just have their targets surrounded by their operatives that are going to lie for law enforcement and are willing to lie and make up things about the target. So this is how they get away with framing innocent people as pedophiles. They just make their target look like a bad guy. They already had my wife and everybody on her side of the family on board with this bullshit. My wife was cheating on me with somebody in law enforcement at the time. And my wife, in turn, recruited our oldest daughter, who was a teenager at the time, into this sting operation. I have been targeted ever since, on and off. I've got to a point where I can easily and generally recognize a sting operation and identify a sting op almost immediately just through their mannerisms and behaviors and their body language and the general traits that sting operatives generally have. I've been around sting operatives so damn long that they have certain traits about them that just give them away. I can give you some examples, but there's more than the examples I'm going to give. I'm not going to tell people everything that I know about sting ops because I'm not going to warn sting ops. It's not like me making these vlogs is actually finding anybody that actually gives a shit. If anything, the only people that seem to give a shit about my vlogs is the sting ops themselves. So I'm not interested in actually warning sting ops about their own dumbass practices and whatnot. So by me actually outlining how to identify sting ops actually wouldn't be beneficial for me or beneficial to another victim because there is no other victims that are actually paying attention to my vlogs. The only people that watch my vlogs is the fucking piece of shit sting ops themselves. And I have no intention of warning them. I could actually teach people how not only how to identify a sting op and how to identify a sting operative, but how to actually record their goddamn asses admitting to crimes in the places they go to when they admit to crimes. But to do so would only warn the sting operatives, and it wouldn't warn actual people, actual honest people that want to actually catch these motherfuckers and actually prove they're a bunch of liars and murderers. So to actually point that out, like on this vlog, would serve no other purpose other than to warn sting ops that they need to change some of their practices because people are becoming aware and waking up to the practices that these sting ops commit. I know how to not only identify a sting op, I know how to catch sting ops bragging. I think I've already demonstrated that. Sting ops are not very intelligent people. They're actually, they just don't give a shit. It's like they become a member. It's like they become a member of this law enforcement clan mentality, where they just acquire this mentality where they think they're above the law and the law don't apply to them, and they don't give a shit about your opinion, and they don't care if you know that they committed a crime, and they just flaunt it in your face, and they just don't give a shit. They'll taunt you. Sting operatives are so arrogant that they'll taunt you, and because they know that they will not, that you can't sue them, you can't successfully prosecute them. Prosecutors and police will not arrest them for anything. Prosecutors and police will ensure that they are, if you ever manage to somehow get enough public pressure to get sting operatives prosecuted, where police and prosecutors feel pressured by the public to do something, well, then the prosecutors and police, they'll stage mistrials to get the sting operative off the hook. Because law enforcement controls the jury pool, and they'll just fill the jury pool with their operatives, and their operatives will just cause a mistrial over and over and over again. They'll do that up to 2 times. Then from that point forward, prosecutors and judges will simply refuse to prosecute that person on that particular crime ever again. And the reason why is because they just mistrialed it each time. Remember, they can only try you like once or twice. They could try you like at the state level, and then they could try you like at the federal level, and that's about it. And they'll literally force a mistrial each and every time. So, and it's the sting operatives that are in the jury pool that law enforcement puts there that causes that to happen. So this is why sting operatives know they're immune to prosecution. They're protected by these sting practices and by their fellow sting operatives from prosecution. So they don't fear prosecution at all. They have no fear of prosecution. And they enjoy ganging up on their targets and terrorizing their targets. And they vilify their targets behind their target's back. Because it cuts off and isolates their target from any form of outside help. I mean, I can identify, traits that they have. I can make, but it's like who actually pays attention to my vlogs? Not very many people. As far as I'm concerned, the only people that are actually listen or watch my vlogs is probably the sting ops themselves, because generally I don't actually get any comments from people that actually really give a shit or want to help or offer to help. You need to keep in mind that this situation is much larger than the way I'm portraying it and just explaining it, because I'm basically giving my account of things, whereas the sting operation of theirs is much larger than what I'm portraying it to be, because of the fact that they were targeting other people, not just me. And sting operatives is like a network. You know how uniformed police officers, they're each in their own separate cruisers, and they patrol the streets, and they try to act separate. But when somebody calls 911 and the police respond, generally there'll be 3 to 4 or 5 cruisers that show up. So that's a demonstration of how people perceive law enforcement generally as loners that are just patrolling the street in their cruisers, when in fact they're actually very organized and work together. Well, sting operations are generally organized groups of several people that generally consist of several people. There'll be, in average, a sting operation that is targeting a specific person. There will be, at any general time, around at least several people targeting that person. But at the same time, in various other parts of town, there are other various sting operations that are targeting other people. Well, when the need arises with these sting operatives for them to organize multiple sting operations will get together for the purpose of killing off one of their targets with the intent of framing another target to get the blame. So in this case, you have two groups of several people, several people consisting in each of these stings, and these separate stings that are targeting separate non-connected people. From time to time, they'll get together and pool up their resources and pull up their manpower on a particular target. This is what they did with me. Now, I'm not an important person. I'm not a politically active person. I'm not a wealthy person by any measure of the word. I'm just your average good guy, average American citizen that has a history of saving lives and has a history of standing up to bad people. And I ended up becoming targeted by a very bunch of sick-ass pieces of dog shit in law enforcement, and I ended up proving it right under their fucking noses that they were setting me up as a pedo and that these sting ops were committing homicides. And because of this, that put me like on their high priority list. Not because I'm an important person, but because they know damn fucking full well that I literally have their asses on audio recordings and whatnot, literally bragging to their crimes and bragging to the processes they use and flaunting how they frame and murder people and describing in detail the tactics they use. And I have them admitting they use doubles. They're admitting they use doubles and photogenic photos, and they're bragging to their girlfriends and their buddies and shit about the crimes they commit and who they're framing and what they did to frame their target and all this and so on and so forth. They know damn well I actually recorded these son of a bitches doing this. I caught them in the act bragging to an entire Walmart store that they were setting me up as a pedophile and that they committed a homicide and that they were using doubles and photogenic photos and that they were making child porn and they broke into my home and that they were posing for photos in our daughter's bedroom and they were doing all this shit and they were laughing and bragging to their girlfriends and to their whores about all this at Clackamas Walmart. And I basically caught the whole damn thing on an audio recorder I put in my wife's purse. So this is because of this multiple sting operations that generally work separate from one another came together for the purpose of finishing me off, so to speak. And when I say finishing me off, I mean they want to absolutely, totally frame me for all kinds of shit to make me and to fabricate enough evidence and to have enough people to lie for them that they can easily make me look like a bad guy, even if I'm dead. And they have no intention of having a trial. They just want to make me look like a bad guy and just murder me off. And the only reason I'm still alive is because of the fact that they know I've secured evidence of them bragging and everything. And they know it's not like they haven't tried to kill me. They've repeatedly tried to kill me. So they actually want me dead. But they know I've secured evidence, and they don't know where it is. They're under the belief that if they harass and pressure me enough and provoke me enough, I think they are under the belief that I might try to retrieve some of that evidence, because I have secured evidence that I have not released over the internet because it's not in my physical possession. And I have no intention of actually retrieving any of that evidence because of the simple fact that I know damn well every time I leave this apartment, I am followed by these sting operatives. They generally have 2 to 3 people following me. On occasion, they have their civilian operatives will confront me when I'm at the grocery store, and they'll perform various street theater performances. They'll walk up to me and ask me if they could buy a cigarette for $25 or something like that, and they do that for their video surveillance because they want to capture a hand-to-hand exchange on their video surveillance. So this is the type of tactic sting ops do. Sting ops Always do that. If you're ever asked by somebody if they can buy a cigarette from you for a quarter, it's a sting operative. And you're being recorded at that moment. Keep that in mind. If somebody asks you if you could break $1 for them because they need change for the bus, that's a sting operative. Anytime somebody asks you in this modern day and age, if somebody asks you for a light for a cigarette, that's a sting operative. They're trying to trick you into doing a hand-to-hand exchange for their video surveillance out on the street. The reason they do that is because they could either frame you as a John, or they could frame you as a prostitute, or they can frame you as a drug addict, or as a drug dealer, or a drug seller. And that's the reason they do that. Never do hand-to-hand exchanges in the public, because each and any time somebody approaches you with that, with wanting something of that nature to occur, it's a sting-op. It is common practice for sting-ops to do this to people, and it is common practice for sting-ops to be like sitting in a vehicle, like half a block away, and they're zooming in with a video camera, or they're taking photogenic photos of the hand-to-hand exchange. And they do that for the purpose of framing their target. Keep in mind, they can use such photogenic photos in newspapers to make you look like a drug addict, or make you look like a drug buyer or a drug dealer, or they can make you look, if they have a woman that's kind of dressed in a slutty manner, approach you and ask you for a light, or ask you if they could buy a quarter or a cigarette from you for a quarter, or if they could any time that happens, it's a sting op. I mean, it's just a given. It's a sting op. If they have people that are underage doing this, well, they're trying to make you look like a drug dealer, and they're trying to make you look like a drug dealer that sells to minors. So keep that in mind. Don't ever give people cigarettes. Don't ever sell people cigarettes. Don't ever light cigarettes for people, and don't ever make change for people out on the street, because these are the common tactics that sting ops use. Very, very common tactics. They do it all the time. They don't give a shit if you know or suspect. It's all about making you look bad on video and on or photogenic photo purposes. That's what it's all about. They don't give a shit if you know or suspect at all. They don't care. They don't care at all. They don't give a shit if you catch them on video because you suspect they're a sting op. They don't care, because newspapers and news reporters won't give a damn if you prove sting ops are doing this. News reporters will smirk at you and they'll pretend you're mentally ill. So news reporters don't give a shit if you prove sting ops are framing people and entrapping people and trying to make innocent people look like bad guys. They don't give a shit if you can prove it. So they don't care if you know or suspect either. Just don't ever fall for that bullshit. It is a common tactic for sting ops to do that. And each and every time you are every time that happens to you and you're out on the street, it's a sting op doing it to you. And that's not the only person involved. There's somebody that's within a block away. Probably somebody sitting in a vehicle that has a camera zoomed in, and they're recording the fact that the sting op is approaching you for the purpose of some sort of a hand-to-hand exchange. Now keep in mind, a sting op can easily lie and say you sold them drugs, or you wanted to buy drugs from them. So see, keep that in mind. It's your word versus their word. And they have video and or photogenic photos to back up their lie. That's why you don't ever fall for that. It is a common tactic as fucking hell. It is so common of a tactic that sting ops do this all the time. I mean, these are the type of sting ops that follow you. When you go someplace and you're out in the public, like whether you're like in my case, I'm disabled. And I'm on SSI, so I have to leave once a month at least to go to the bank to pick up my SSI, and I have to go grocery shopping, and I'm partially paralyzed. I can't move around very well. It's not easy for me to get around, and they'll literally approach me when I'm out in the public, whether it's usually when I'm at the grocery store or at a bus stop. That's when the sting ops will usually approach you, and they'll ask you if you can break $1 or for a bus so that they can have change for the bus, or they'll ask if they could buy a cigarette from you for a quarter, or they'll ask if for a light or anything. Any type of hand-to-hand exchange is what they want, because they can make you look like a bad guy, even though you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing nothing wrong. You're not breaking a single fucking law. They can still make you look like a bad guy, and that's what sting ops concentrate on. And that should be enough for you to know whether or not you're being followed or not. They'll follow you and record you everywhere you go. They'll have 2 to 3 people generally assigned to follow. Whoever's assigned in the sting operation to be spying on you at the particular time that you happen to leave your home to go someplace, those are the people that generally will follow you. And it'll be 2 to 3 people in general. Now, in my particular case, it's much more extreme, it's much more severe, because multiple sting operations have gotten together to target me because of the fact that I've actually documented and proven a sting op and proved that a sting op committed break-ins, and they committed a rape, and they committed a homicide, and they were fucking laughing and bragging about it to their damn girlfriends and to their whores, and they were bragging that they were setting me up to get the blame, and they even admitted that I was asleep at the time. So, geez, I not only do I have them on audio admitting to their crimes and admitting that they were framing me for the crimes, but they admitted I was asleep at the time. So, and they're basically admitting they broke into my home, and they admitted they poisoned my coffee pot. They admitted they planted evidence in my home. And they admitted our home was under illegal video surveillance by them, and they were admitting that they wanted the portion of their video surveillance where they committed a homicide and where they planted evidence and where they poisoned my coffee pot. They wanted that video surveillance erased. They just wanted to use their doubles and photogenic photos that they took in this particular incident, and I have them admitting to all this on audio. Now, I shouldn't have to explain how extremely important that audio recording is, because it does indeed establish that not only does multiple people, law enforcement, do this to people, but it's a standard practice. It's a fucking standard practice by sting ops to commit and stage all the fucking crimes, and then they just give their target the blame. These officers were not only bragging to their girlfriends and to their whores about what they just did, they were bragging to their superiors, and they were specifically requesting from their superiors to have certain sections of their video surveillance erased to cover their own asses. So, I mean, this is how extreme this is. And this is why I'm so heavily targeted by this sting operation, because this ain't the typical sting op that's targeting me. This is like multiple sting ops that got together to fuck me over, because I fucked them over by catching them in the act and bragging about it. So multiple sting ops came together to essentially fray me and finish me off, essentially. Not to mention, they're still in the hopes of hoping that I might lead them to the evidence I've already secured, of which that'll never happen. They already know that. I would have gotten it by now if I had any intention of actually retrieving that evidence. I can't retrieve evidence when I know I'm being followed, and I know for a fact that I'm being followed. Even when they try to hide it from me, I can still easily identify them because of their traits. They think law enforcement sting operators are not very intelligent. They're just very organized, and they just don't give a shit. Their traits generally give them away. Their tactics generally give them away. Their performances are usually over-exaggerated, and they usually do odd things and behave in odd ways that average normal people don't. You know, sting ops tend to be slant-eyed because they want to hide the fact they're a sting op. So they'll act like they're walking, they'll like walk past you, and they're facing forward, but their eyes are not facing in a direction where their face is facing. Their eyes are turned on you, and they're looking at you, but they're trying to hide it. They try to hide it from you. And those are seems to be a common trait with sting operatives. That is a dead giveaway of a sting op immediately. They don't have to say a word. They don't have to do anything except walk, and it gives them away instantly. Because only sting ops do that. Because they're targeting you and they try to hide it. But they subconsciously do it anyway, and like I said, it's a dead giveaway. They don't realize that, they're, like I said, sting ops are not very intelligent people. They're just very organized people that lie for one another, and they have no fear of prosecution. So they're very brazen in the crimes that they commit. They're very brazen in the targeting and the stalking and the harassing and the terrorizing of their targets that they do to people. They're very brazen, and they act like they have God. They all have essentially what you would refer to as a God complex, where they just think they're better than everybody else, and they think they can do whatever the fuck they want. And for all intents and purposes, they pretty much can, because this government will not punish them for anything they fucking do. So they don't fear prosecution, and they don't fear doing bad things. They don't fear framing people. They don't fear consequences. Because they know they're not going to be arrested for anything. So, but they're like, at the same time, they generally tend to not be very intelligent people. Their traits generally give them away. Apartment managers tend to be sting operatives. Most apartment managers, at least in Portland, Oregon anyway, are sting operatives, and they work for Portland Police and County Sheriffs and for any other police agency for the purpose of targeting people and for framing and setting up people and for even murdering off people. Almost all murders that occur at apartment buildings are committed by sting operations. And news media just neglects to mention the fact that the person that was killed happened to be surrounded by police sting operatives at the time. And the apartment managers themselves just simply happen to neglect to mention that to anybody. And that's how easy it is for them to cover up homicides, and that's how easy it is for them to cover up sting operations. The system simply refuses to acknowledge and admit to such operations. And because of it, they get away with it all the time. They're very murderous. Sting ops are essentially all about organized people surrounding their targets. And sting ops generally stage and commit pretty much all the crimes. And then they do so with the intent of giving blame to their target. Now, whether they want their target to stand trial or not, that can be a separate issue, because of the simple fact that half the time, when sting ops frame people, they end up killing the person they frame, so that there simply is no trial, and nobody stands trial, and nobody testifies to a damn thing, and they've already vilified and publicly blamed this person. So the person gets the blame with no trial, and the people that killed the person doesn't stand trial either. And so basically they vilify their targets. And half the time their targets get prosecuted and get railroaded into prison in an unfair court. right, where law enforcement filled the jury pool to ensure that that person gets convicted. And of course, there's just no real coverage of the trial in the news, so people are just unaware that innocent people are being railroaded into prison. Or the sting operation frames their targets for crimes, and then the sting operation kills the target. So that the target just gets stuck with the blame, regardless. And then nobody stands trial. And that's generally what sting ops do. And like I said, I'm not a big fish in any of this kind of shit. I'm just your average person. I'm not a wealthy person. I'm not a political person. I guess you could think of me as a whistleblower, I guess, in a sense.